Hey, what up, SGK people? It's Poke again here. Today we're going to go ahead and fix a couple issues from the true first person character modular here. And if you didn't use a meta human or maybe you didn't make a modular character, you don't really need to worry about this part right here. But if you remember, when you look down, you can see that scene in the body. Basically, what that is, you probably don't have that issue if you downloaded a metahuman and cut it up and did it. The reason that I have that issue is because the body parts that I used are actually old. There are a couple, at least probably 5.1, I think, is when I downloaded this mesh and cut it up and did it. So if you have a current mesh, you probably don't have this problem. So that's that. Next issue on the board here was we're still using let's fix that real quick. We're not going to fix it, but we're going to set this back to how we using the where is that? Yeah, we're going to use the leader pose component and not the retargeting animation blueprint. Just so it holds his gun correctly. Alright, so yeah, now that gun is being held correctly. And if you remember when we put the red dot sight on here, and the first time that we zoom in, we're looking here at the base of the sight. So the way to fix that is we're going to go ahead and go into the master range weapon, which is in SGK, blueprints, items, holdable items, master range weapon. And what we're going to do is, first thing we need to do is go ahead and, let's see, hang on one second. Here's the original. Yeah, alright, so first thing we want to do is go ahead and, if you remember, we have our save socket offset, and then we have our aim socket offset. That's the one that we're using to control it. What we're going to do is duplicate this one, and we're going to call this our sight socket offset. And then what we're going to do is go ahead and replace this aim socket offset with the sight socket offset here in the get sight details, which is this little collapse graph right here in our aiming graph. And what we're going to do is we're also going to go ahead and copy this. We're going to go back up into here to our server secondary action. We're going to paste that right here. Alright, so what that's going to do is that's going to set us a socket for our sight, and that way it's not going to override our actual thing. And phone call. Alright, sorry about that. Alright, so next what we're going to do is we want to go to our aiming graph, which is right here. If you remember, this is what we set up yesterday. We're going to go ahead and drag this out a bit. And we're going to go ahead and duplicate this. Plug it in there, and we're going to plug our sight socket. Actually, we want to switch these just because. So sight socket offset on the top here, aim socket offset on the bottom. And then what we want to do is go ahead and get our sight. And it is valid. If it is valid, then we want to use our sight socket offset that we set back here in our get sight details graph, both of them. If it's not valid, then we want to go ahead and use the aim socket offset, which is our standard weapon offset. So, pretty sure that's all we need to do right now. Let's see. Yeah, just the two. Duplicate the graph and add that. Now, when we go in here, grab our weapon. And then put a sight on it. Yeah, now we zoom in to the sight's location. And again, if you don't like where it's sitting, you can always adjust it on the sight itself in the ADS transform. All right, so there's that. Let's see, what was the other last little thing I want to do here? Oh, yeah. All right, so if you notice, let's go ahead and just go ahead and put a helmet on. And when we switch cameras, as you can see, it instantly gets rid of the helmet and then zooms in, which, I mean, that's tacky if you ask me. So the way we fix that is we're going to go into our character component, back into the camera, enter first person camera. And what we want to do is, if you remember the update owner visibility, we're going to go ahead and just bypass this. We'll just put it back here where it was originally. And same thing for third person. Put it back here. And just bypass it. And then now what we want to do is go back to our master character here. And back to our event graph here. And on our set camera function with the timeline, we're going to grab our character component. And we're going to update owner visibility. This may need to be multicast. I'm not 100% sure on that. Update is needed, so we want it to be hidden here, so we want to hide here, and we want it to be visible here. And now what's going to happen is, just like our head and hair, the helmet is going to disappear as we enter into it. So that way you don't have to actually see the helmet expose your head real quick before you zoom in. So, all right, we're back here. Let's go ahead and, before we do anything, let's go ahead and clean up some code that we don't need anymore. So, where we want to go is in here in the character component, BP character component, into the event graph and animation. And if you notice, there's a bunch of different animation calls here. Some of them call the SGK character mesh. Others call the first person arms. And sometimes the first person body. We don't have a first person body or first person arms anymore, so we can go ahead and basically delete anything that's not using this particular type of mesh right here. So let's start right here. We don't need that. Delete that. We do not need this. None of this we need. Pass. Keep the animation notify here, but everything else past it. You want gone. That way it's not calling any code that doesn't exist, basically. I can imagine it might cause a little bit of an issue. Alright, this one, let's see, where does this event originate? Not here. We're looking for what's actually calling this particular event. This is the actual event. We're looking for the one that calls it. Melee weapon, okay. So, yeah, we can go ahead and just basically delete all of this right here. Yep. Great. So now we can go ahead and delete this as well. And let's see if we have any more. Yeah, there's a few. So is it anything, we want anything with the mesh, but nothing after it, because that's all the stuff that we don't have anymore. And like I said, this just prevents extra code from running that we don't need to have running. Even though it's going to fail the cast and not run anyway, but before it was better to have and not need, than to need and not have, but in this case, better to not have it. Alright, so that looks like most of that there. Now, if you really wanted to get down and dirty in this and get rid of everything, what you could do is go into Other. In the Master Clothing attachment, there are several places where, like the first person, adding the meshes, we really don't need those because they're getting added to the third person. So we don't need any of these functions really. We can probably just disconnect any of them that have any references. It's an interesting one. Anyway, we'll just get rid of the first person mode because we're not going into first person mode. What does first person mode do? Okay. Yeah, see, we don't need that. I'm just trying to decide if this should just be bypassed. And both of them just go straight into we'll see. Find references. Yeah, that one's getting called from here, which we aren't calling that anymore. First person visibility. Okay, so that's going to take care of hiding our clothing and stuff like that. That's fine. This we probably wouldn't really need either. Yeah, we wouldn't need this one. So we can just disconnect it. Let's see, is there any references to it? Just in the first person mode. So if we get rid of those. And then where is first person mode called from? Begin play. Which we already deleted it. Let's just make sure that it's not being called anywhere else, in which it is. On the character component. So yeah, right there, okay. And what does first person mode do again exactly? Okay. So what we could do here is just, where is it? Is that, no, that's not it. Where was it? Oh, I'm thinking of the character component. Yeah, this, because all it's doing in first person mode is hiding what needs to be hidden. You know what, let's just leave it unchecked for now, see what happens. Because when you switch the camera view, we're setting the clothing visibility, so we probably really don't need this particular function. It's up to you. I would just say go through, test it. I mean, disconnect it, try it, see what happens, if it works or not. I see our vest isn't showing up, which I believe is checked to not show up, so that's fine. Hands aren't showing up. Are those set to? They're probably all set to not be visible in first person mode. Let's see. Vest. Yeah, it's hide in first person. I guess it's arms is what they call it. Yeah, hide in first person. Turn those both back on. Yeah. So you can kind of see into the vest. I don't know if you'd want to have it hidden or not. Probably not. I don't know. You can always move the camera up to get a different view. So you can't see into it like that. And I mean, I doubt anybody's actually going to really use the cardboard stuff. Who knows? But if you are, you can always move your camera. If you have other clothing that interferes, you can move the camera. That sort of thing. This is just a bug fix video and stuff like that. So have a good one.